Today's video is going to be a fun one. It's another tier list. It's based on all the anime I've watched that fall under the fantasy genre. I'm going to be brutally honest about how I feel about every one of these anime. There are going to be some pretty surprising rankings, but it should be fun, you know? Hopefully there'll be some comments so I can respond to them, because I'm pretty sure that a couple of these things will definitely be disagreed with. And without further ado, let's start. Attack on Titan Season 2? Yeah, this is Season 2. Attack on Titan Season 2 was my favorite season. I'm gonna give it S tier. Attack on Titan Season 1 was a really good start to the show, also S tier. Attack on Titan Season 3, though, was A tier because the first half was kind of lacking, but the second half stepped it up. But the first half was just really mediocre. So overall, I think it's like not good enough to end up in S tier, but you know, still solid enough to be A tier. Season 4, though, Season 4 will probably be like no, actually, I'll give it S tier. Season 4 has been really, really enjoyable so far. I think the first few episodes were quote-unquote slow, but they also massively developed the world. You know, a lot of lore, we get to see like how the other side is living, which makes the whole story way more compelling. So I'll give it S tier. Black Clover, honestly, I don't really understand the hate for Black Clover. I'm gonna give it A tier. I think that, especially with its most recent arc, it belongs in A tier, but I think everything up to that, Black Clover was really enjoyable. I will admit, some of the scenes, the animation was really killing me. There were 2 fights that I saw and I was just like, oh, so this is why people hate Black Clover's animation. But a lot of them, I watched the fights and I was like, hey, yo, this is clean. So I don't really understand why it gets as much hate as it does. And with the most recent arc, it completely belongs in A tier. Ascendance of a Bookworm, both seasons are B tier. It's like Slice of Life meets Isekai. I love both of those genres, so of course it was gonna, you know, be up there. I don't think it's good enough to go in A tier, although, no, it's a B tier anime. Danmachi Season 2 was B tier. I think that it was pretty good, but it wasn't as good as Danmachi Season 1, which was shockingly good. I think everything about Danmachi Season 1 I enjoyed. Meeting all the cast was great. The fight scenes were great. The story, I mean, it doesn't actually try to tell that complicated of a story, but sometimes that's okay. Sometimes you just want to watch something that's fun to watch, and I think Danmachi really fills that spot. Season 3 was D tier, though. There was just, it wasn't enjoyable. I thought the story was whack. The action was lacking until like the last 2 episodes. The new characters they introduced were not that interesting. Overall, I think Season 4 will be better, but Season 3 really dropped the ball. Demon Slayer is really overrated. Let's see, B or C? I'll give it B. I think that Demon Slayer really is not that good. Like, it has a okay story. It has good action that is made to look way better by Ufotable. I think that episode 19 launched Demon Slayer to levels that it did not deserve. Don't get me wrong, it's a good anime. B tier is nothing to, like, you know, laugh at, but at the same time, the way I hear Demon Slayer be talked about, people act like it's an S tier anime. No, it's a B tier anime with a couple S tier fights. Fairy Tail, D. I gotta watch the rest of it, but so far, I'm really not that impressed by Fairy Tail. I think it's like, it's just mid. I was trying to think of a better word to describe it, but it's just mid. Fate Zero, C. I think action, amazing. Some of the characters had really compelling stories. Some of the other characters were pretty lacking. The story overall, it was like a little jumbled. I think Fate is one of those franchises where it's like, you got to watch the entire franchise to launch the whole thing up to like B, A, or S tier. But since I didn't watch the entire franchise yet, I'm just going to leave Fate Zero in C. Full Metal Alchemist was A. I think that it might, no, actually no. I was going to say it's overrated, but I think it actually deserves the praise that it gets because it tells a great story with compelling characters, has a really cool magic system, good action. There's very little to nitpick about with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, so I'll just give it A tier. Hunter x Hunter. This one's kind of hard for me. I think that S tier is probably where it belongs, but the pacing on the arcs is really not that great. So it's like, I'll give it S tier, but with the asterisk of, dang, the pacing is so bad sometimes. Like, the Chimera Ant arc is my favorite anime arc, arguably, but the pacing on it, oh my gosh. The fact that it took like 20 episodes to like span 6 minutes or whatever, that's an exaggeration, but you get the point. Konosuba's A tier to me. I think it's like hilarious. It's a really good, it's an isekai, yeah, but as a comedy, it completely works. All the characters are hilarious. Seeing them interact with each other and the world works perfectly. A tier. I don't think that many people argue about that. I know some people don't like isekai in general, but I don't really understand the hate for isekai. There's a whole bunch more in this list, and they're going to be A and B. I can tell you that right now. Maquia, D. It's one of those movies that tries to be a little more emotional than it is, and so since it spends all its time building up to the emotional climax, if you pay attention to the plot, it's not actually that good, and then the emotional climax didn't even hit that hard for me, so just D. I'm Standing on a Million Lives is F. It's the worst isekai I've ever seen. It is generic trash, absolute garbage, gives isekai a bad name, should not have been animated, disgusting. Just, yeah, I don't have anything nice to say about it. Mushoku Tensei, though, the quote-unquote grandfather of isekai, I'm giving it B, but the only reason I'm doing that is because it's only like 3 episodes in, but it's gonna end up A or maybe S tier. I think it'll end up A, but, considering that clearly a lot of other isekai were inspired by this, it is gonna go places. My Next Life as a Villainess? I mean, no one I know has watched this, but it's really good. Isekai meets harem meets comedy. Really enjoyable. All the characters were like really good. And then the show has like its unique sense of humor that I really enjoyed. And it was just really fun to watch. So I'll give it A tier. No Game, No Life. The best C tier anime I ever watched in my life. The art style is so cool, and it has a couple cool scenes, but I feel like right when it started to like develop a story that was going to go somewhere, that's when season 1 ends. So if, it ever gets to season 2, which at this rate it looks like it won't, then I think the show will end up in the higher tiers. But like, it has some weird elements to it, and overall, season 1 feels like a setup season, and then you just never get to see what it was setting up for. But it's still amazing. One Piece, S. Sure, it's long, and the pacing can be weird, which, I'm going to put it above Hunter x Hunter. Actually, I'm going to put it above Attack on Titan as well. The pacing can be weird, don't get me wrong, but One Piece is just goated. It is the anime right there. All the characters, awesome. They tell good backstories. The fight scenes are really cool. The abilities, the powers, the world building. I could go on and on and on about why One Piece is an S tier elite anime that everyone should watch, despite it going on 1,000 episodes. ReZero, season 1 is A tier. I've now watched it 3 times, and I no longer think that season 1 is weak. I used to think that, season 1 lacked direction, but now that I've seen it 3 times, I changed my mind. ReZero, A tier. But ReZero season 2, absolute S tier. Season 2 part 1 was amazing. It told, like, the story stepped up, the characters stepped up. Subaru got character development times 1,000. I mean, my previous tier list, I put it in S tier, and it's going in S tier again. This is just an elite anime, and now that season 2 part 2 has come out, that part belongs in S tier as well, even though it's only 4 episodes in. And I mean, Small Amelia, that's all I have to say. MMO Junkie, F. I think it had like a decent idea. You've got this character who's like a bit of a social recluse. They don't go out, they don't interact with people. All they really want to do is play their MMOs, and then they use that as the catalyst to grow her as a character and get her like more into the world. But when they were in the MMO, it's kind of dry. And then the characters themselves, like, I think they could have gone for a little more development. Maybe throw some backstories in. It just was like, whatever. Redo of Healer. So, like, this is like, you know, the controversial anime out there right now. I don't really think it has any redeeming qualities. It's one of those things where, like, I looked into it because everyone was talking about how it's so crazy and controversial, and I love controversy, so, you know, I thought, oh, let me check it out. So I went and I watched the first 2 episodes, and it was just, it was not it. I don't want to talk about it too much because I feel like this is the type of anime that could get a video flagged or whatever, but yikes, just not a good anime. I even went and, like, skimmed the manga to see if, like, it ever gets itself together, and no, I think the author was just like, all right, I'm gonna make an edgy revenge story that goes too far constantly, and I'll use that edginess to propel the story forward. Because the story doesn't go anywhere. It's just revenge, out of pocket scene, nothing good about it. And then it'll try to make you, like, feel for the main character. And yeah, don't get me wrong, he went through some pretty wild things, but then he turns around and does deplorable things to other people. So am I really supposed to feel for him? No, thank you. F tier. At least it gives you something to discuss, but at the same time, it's disgusting. So pass. Rising of the Shield Hero is the better version of Redo of Healer. I'm gonna give it like top of B tier. It was really good. The action was really good. It has like a bit of an edginess to it, but at the same time, it doesn't go too far like Redo did. It also tells a bit of a revenge story, but it actually builds up the revenge story. Redo of Healer, by like episode 2, they jump into the revenge without us ever really like understanding the full need for revenge. I mean, yeah, you get it, but like you don't see it. Whereas Rising of the Shield Hero, we really understand why he would want revenge. You know, we see him, like, you know, go through the story, develop as a character, and then when revenge comes, it's that much more sweet, or that much sweeter, because, yeah, they built it up. So this is a B tier, B plus at Isekai. The action was great too. I mean, the whole concept of him being the shield hero so he can only use a shield, I thought that might end up being lame, but they actually made it stupidly cool. Plus, this is like the one like fantasy type anime that embraces the video game element even more than SAO did. Like, the entire world feels like it was designed like a video game, and rather than just showing us that it's like a video game for episode 1, it actually stays being like a video game throughout the entire show. I feel like Sword Art Online, which is, you know, the next anime, we have this really cool world with this really cool concept, and then the show is just like, that was cool, and throws it all out. Which is why SAO flopped, and I think Shield Hero does that video game type thing way better. Alicization Part 2 was D tier. It only had one cool scene, and it uses mostly like nostalgia, well, not nostalgia, but like it brings back a ton of characters to propel its like popularity, which was to me pretty lame, because I think Alicization Part 1, which is what right here, was actually probably SAO at its best. They changed up like the fight system. Kirito was less of an OP character, and then all the characters around him actually had cool stories and character development, which is something that SAO does not do. I mean, if you watch Sword Art Online, you'll notice that Kirito is just like this OP popular loner type character, and it's pretty lame, honestly. When I was younger, you know, Sword Art was like the first anime I watched, and so I thought, yo, this is so cool, you know, video games and OP powers. But then when you really think about it, like, it has this amazing concept of people being trapped in a video game where if they die in the game, they die in real life. And it kind of just throws that all away so that they can like time skip them moving up the floors of the game, where each floor is basically its own world. I feel like Sword Art Online had the potential to be an A or S tier anime if it just like developed the characters, showed them going through the worlds, the struggles they go through, actually, you know, kill off some characters that they build up. But no, it did none of that, and so I think Sword Art Online is unforgivably bad, which is why I put regular SAO in D, because the concept keeps it above F, but the execution keeps it below any good tier. Seven Midly Sins is a C tier. It's the most mid anime ever. I mean, I didn't even bother splitting it up by season. It's just mediocre. All the characters are kind of flat. The action has a couple cool scenes, but other than that, it was kind of whatever. What else? The whole Meliodas, Elizabeth, whatever, pass, you know. And then, you know, a lot of the characters are just, they're weird. Like, look at their age and then look at the age of the person they're into, or the way the person they're into looks. And that's all I'll say about Seven Deadly Sins. That time I got reincarnated as a slime, though, it's like, it's so fun. Like, there's no, like, if someone was like, describe this anime in one word, fun. Rimuru is such a cool character because, you know, yes, it is power fantasy. Don't get me wrong. He is an overpowered character who can literally just absorb any abilities he wants. But the personality that they gave him, he doesn't necessarily just go around solving every problem instantly. Yes, he'll step in and solve like the major issues. But at the same time, it's more about like meeting all these different species and developing a town, and you know, you've got like the political relations and building a country, war. I think that Slime really works as an anime, and season 2 has been really good so far as well. So I think that it's one of those things where people go, oh, an isekai, power fantasy, but like, what's wrong with that? What if it's enjoyable to watch? And Slime definitely checks off all the boxes for fun, enjoyable, despite being a power fantasy type of anime. Soul Eater, I mean, this is like my hottest hot take, I think, other than maybe the next one. D tier. I did not like Soul Eater. My friend tried to get me to watch it twice, and both times I watched it, I was just not impressed. The story did not draw me in. The characters did not draw me in. The music was, I mean, I'm not gonna like blame an anime for its music. The music was fine, but like the rest of the stuff, it just wasn't interesting to me. I was not feeling it. And so, you know, why would I put it in a higher tier just because other people like it, when personally I thought it was kind of lame? Spirited Away, also a D tier. This one might be an even hotter take because I know Spirited Away is like critically acclaimed, highest selling, well, not anymore, it's been dethroned twice, but really high selling movie out there. But Spirited Away was just weird, and don't get me wrong, I watch weird stuff, so it's not like weirdness is the thing causing me to demote it, but it was weird and not in a good way. It just, I didn't like it. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the story, the animation, which, you know, could probably get me slandered because it's a Ghibli movie, but I don't care. It just doesn't work. I don't think Spirited Away is that good of a movie at all. I don't even remember the name of this anime. One sec. Oh, yeah. When supernatural battles become commonplace. The only reason I watched this anime was because it was a really funny scene I saw on Instagram. I watched up until I got to that scene, realized that someone had just like edited it in Instagram, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this show had nothing to offer anyway, so I'm done, and I moved on. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. It's just mediocre. None of the characters are interesting. The powers are lame. You know, it just uses that high school setting to be in a high school. Mediocre. No, not even mediocre. Bad. What is this? SAO2 Gun Gale. I'll give it like mid D tier because watching Kirito jump around with a lightsaber in a game full of guns was cool, but everything else was just trash. Saga of Tanya the Evil, A-. Excuse me. I think that this one was really fun. Yes, another isekai, whatever. But it had a really cool like war style setting for an isekai, whereas like a lot of them, it's just like, you know, it's like that medieval European country that happens to speak Japanese. This one was like, you know, medieval, well, not even medieval, like World War, probably one style Germany that happens to speak Japanese. And it was pretty fun. You know, the whole battle between like Tanya and God was a cool concept. And then the fighting in the show was pretty cool to watch as well. Tower of God was F. I remember literally everyone was like hyping it up you know, it's about to change the game. And don't get me wrong, it did change the game by being like I think they're called manhwa, a webtoon that got adapted into an anime. So like brownie points for that. But the story, my God, the story was bad. There was just nothing good about it. A, it was slow. B, it was weird. C, it didn't make that much sense. D, I'm pretty sure they cut a lot of its content. And then, you know, for like E through F, it's just bad. And then the characters were pretty lame. They don't really develop that much. I feel like, considering how much hype it had, it probably has a really good manga or, you know, webtoon. But the anime must have cut a ton of stuff, because overall, it was just like, it was almost like they expected us to like these characters, but they didn't do anything to make us like the characters. So I feel like this is one of those ones where it got violated by its content being cut out, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's just a trash story. But the anime we got was really bad. And I feel bad for the fact that like I was hyping it up as well. Because, you know, I got caught up in the hype train and, you know, oh my gosh, Tower of God, it's going to be so good. Go watch it. By the time that season was over, I just wanted to like delete any evidence that I promoted this anime. Promised Neverland, B+. I think that it's a really good story. It's super intense. The characters are pretty cool, but like only the ones we actually interact with. A lot of them are almost like nameless faces in the background. But like the main characters, they're pretty cool. And then the story is pretty solid. I think season 2 will probably like make or break the show. I'm pretty sure it's gonna make it for most people. I'm not really a fan of like horror spooky vibes, so it never was going to end up A tier for me, but I think it tells a really good story. I really don't understand why Violet Evergarden is listed as a fantasy anime. But hey, it's a really good anime. It's got emotional stories. Seeing Violet like develop emotions and all that was amazing. And my God, the animation, like, it's too good. It's movie level good. It looks as good as like a Your Name type movie, and it's an anime. So good, like beautiful. You could spend time ignoring the words. You could mute it and just look. And that would be enough to get it like B tier. Throw in the plot and you've got high A tier. Like Violet Evergarden, chef's kiss. Wandering Witch, also A tier. I love this anime. My next video is probably going to be on this anime. Not every episode is A tier, don't get me wrong. But the ones that are great are A or S tier. And so, yeah. Honestly, might be my anime of 2020. Is that or Great Pretender? But Wandering Witch was just a really good anime. Weathering with You, I'll give it like high C. It's no Your Name, I'll give you that. It's nice to look at, but the plot was kind of stupid. Like there's like this one scene where like the boy is like trying to get away from the cops, and like one of the cops grabs him, and then the girl, who's like, you know, pretty small, like jumps and like knocks the cop over. Mind you, there's 2 cops there, and somehow the girl, her younger sibling, who's like 10 or whatever, and the boy all managed to get away from the 2 cops. Come on. That was just so dumb. And like that's only one of the many plot holes in that movie. So it's just like, it's pretty weak. Wonder Egg, whoa, it's not S tier yet. I think that by the end of the season, Wonder Egg is going to end up in S tier. The story looks so good. The animation is beautiful. The characters are deeply written and compelling. You know, so far they've introduced like 3 of them. 3 main characters, and all 3 of them seem to have their different motivations for doing what they're doing. But it's crazy. I mean, you've got one girl who ended up, well, I don't want to spoil it. I think you should just go watch it. But Wonder Egg Priority is a very good fantasy type anime. I mean, it's like in 6 categories. I think it's in fantasy, horror, psychological, action. I don't think it's an adventure, but you know, all those other categories it falls under. And it's just really, really good. That concludes the list. I'm sure there are some things that piss some people off or, you know, are worth discussing in the comments. So feel free to write a comment. I respond to literally every single one of them. like and subscribe to see more tier lists and other videos in the future. Thanks for watching.